to Suits and Sneakers, a series featuring sage advice and candid conversations with seasoned leaders from diverse backgrounds and styles. I'm your host, Carrie Tuttle. With my guests, we deep dive into the areas of team engagement, motivation, and effective performance management. Get ready to be inspired and transform your approach to leadership. Please like, subscribe, or follow to be notified when episodes are released. Let's get started. I'm honored to speak with Markku Kauppinen today, President and CEO of Extended Disc North America since 1997. Under Markku's leadership, Extended Disc has become one of the top assessment companies in the world that has been recognized by multiple industry awards. The mission of the company has been steadfast: provide the best internationally validated assessment tools that can be tailored to clients' unique needs. Also, deliver the most responsive and flexible facilitator support and customer service in the industry, and offering the best support materials and never stop developing and improving. Today, Extended Disc organization has offices in over 40 countries and over 250 team members. While millions of Extended Disc assessments have been used around the world, Markku has personally debriefed well over 45,000 assessments. He's widely recognized as the most knowledgeable person to interpret the Extended Disc profiles in North America and among the top few in the world. He's conducted over 450 Extended Disc certification sessions around the world. Markku's been involved in development of sales capacity, sports capacity, and remote worker assessments. These are already being used in over 40 countries as well. Fun fact, Markku was born in Helsinki, Finland, and emigrated to the US in 1984. Markku, welcome to Suits and Sneakers.
Thank you, Carrie. Thanks for inviting me.
My pleasure. I personally have used Extended Disc and also got certified, so I'm a little bit biased, but I think it's amazing. For our audience, can you give a little bit of background on what it is and why people should be interested in exploring it?
Well, the disc theory has been around for almost 9 years, and this theory is really, if you consider it an open source model, nobody owns disc, but over the years, a few organizations have developed their own disc model assessments, and our company is one of those. We've been in business worldwide almost, actually, a little bit over 30 years now, and I've been involved with Extended Disc North America, as you mentioned in that fabulous introduction, almost 30 years as well. But what the disc model really helps us to do is to help us modify our behavior, how we communicate more effectively, how we become more successful leaders, salespeople, and also how to be more successful in our personal lives, how to understand not only our family members and friends, but ultimately help us with our professional and personal success. What the DISC model does is it looks at human beings and does not have any value judgments. It's not a test where you can get a low score or a high score, but it simply helps us to identify who we really are, how we tend to prefer to communicate with others, how we see the world, and how we react to different types of stimuli in our environment, be it interaction with a person or being in a certain type of situation, and also dealing with things like pressure and stress and so forth. But again, there's nothing that is good or bad. Really, where we start as a starting point, we use it as to create what I call a confident self-awareness, to be very comfortable in our skin, understand that we have some wonderful strengths, but we also may have some development areas or blind spots that may hold back how we interact with the world and how successful we can be.
Absolutely. And now it's really an acronym, right? D, I, S, and C. So how do you explain the different styles?
Well, at the basic level, you're absolutely correct. The D, I, S, and C, they stand for, they identify the four main behavioral styles. D style, and by the way, we tend to stay away from one word labels because sometimes people put too much value for that one word, but it's really important to understand that we are actually a combination of all of these four styles, but it really means that one of these styles is most comfortable or most natural to us. One is the least comfortable, and the other two fall somewhere in between. But the D is often words like dominance or driver are being used to describe D styles. And D styles tend to move very fast. They tend to like to take risk. They tend to have a fairly short-term perspective in their different types of initiatives. So if they don't get immediate results, they may get a little bit frustrated. I style, words like influence is often used with I style, and I's are the most outgoing and more social of the four styles. They love to be the center of attention, have a lot of interactions with other people, and they tend to be very optimistic and animated. They are kind of the center of a party, if you will. They love going to parties, networking events, and they get a lot of energy when they are able to interact with others. Mm-hmm. S styles, steady or stable, those are two words often used with them. They like to be with people, but they are more comfortable when they are around familiar people in small groups or small teams. They tend to be very focused on long-term plans and long-term goals. And they just simply want to understand what the plan is and how I can get there. And finally, the C styles, correctness or compliance. Those are two words often used with C styles. They like information, details, and they really want things to be done correctly based on facts and accurate data. And again, none of these styles are better or worse, and all of us have all of these four styles in us, and we help our clients to understand what is their natural and comfort level with the four styles so we can help them create that confident self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And I can imagine that as a leader is building a team, having a combination of all of those styles would help provide some diversity in thought and in approach. Is that fair to say?
It definitely will provide some diversity, but also it can create some challenges. But if we are looking at these styles in team settings, really the most important starting point to consider is what are the goals? What are the objectives for the team? Sometimes it's great to have all four style represented, but actually certain teams, you may want to maybe only one or two styles based on their environment and what type of behaviors are required for them to be successful. Try to give an example. If you are in a hospital emergency room, when people come there with serious, after accidents with serious trauma, you probably want more D styles who are quick to take action. They jump into taking care of the patients right away. But as the person transitions to recovery, you may want to have more S styles who are very nurturing and very patient. So it depends on what are the goals, what are the requirements of the team, what type of team you want to have. And what we see consistently is that as human beings, we tend to gravitate toward teams and organizations that aligns well with our natural style. We will find that some jobs really take a lot of, or some roles take a lot of energy from us. And at the end of the day, we go home and we just feel drained and we need to recharge our batteries. So eventually we tend to gravitate toward careers, jobs, teams, organizations that align very well with our comfort zone. Now, there are a lot of exceptions, but overall, we see that happen very consistently.
Give us a little background for yourself. How did you come to lead Extended Disc?
Well, really by chance. I came to United States in 1984, as you mentioned, really under protest because I didn't even ever think about coming here. But a friend of mine dared me and he made a wager. It was about $12. He never paid, but here I am. I really found this country very fascinating. And if you go back 1984, no cell phones, no internet, and I knew very little about the United States and really couldn't speak any English, but I fell in love with this country right away. And I decided to continue with my education and have a business degree and MBA in finance, so ended up in banking. All my family stayed in Finland and my younger sister became very ill and I decided to quit my job and go take care of her for a little over a year. And while I was there, really by accident, I met the key developer of Extended Disc. That's where the product was originally developed. And long story short, I didn't get it right away because I never even heard of an assessment, much less seen one. But once I got my own report back and really thought about, I was a commercial lender and branch manager in banking. I spent about a third of my time with different kind of employee issues. And when I saw my report, and I thought, if I had this kind of information about my employees, my life would have been so much easier. So I saw a great opportunity and then started extended this North America back in 1997. And here I am.
Here you are. Well, and what a interesting story about how sometimes it's a moment when you have to slow down that you come across this opportunity for self-reflection, self-awareness, and then thinking bigger. I love that story.
Well, I found that life typically is that way, especially when I interact with young people. They have these long-term plans and this is what my life is going to be. And in my experience, that's really actually, it plays out that way. We need to be, again, my view, to be open to opportunities and align that with what your overall vision is for your life. Too often we are so focused on making a living, where my philosophy is that we should be more focused on making life. What is our life should look like? And it aligned well with my general vision. I don't want to make it sound like I had this beautiful, fantastic vision, but I had a vision for the direction I wanted to take my life. And it aligned very well with that. And it was really luck that I met this person, but I think we need to be open to creating opportunities, like creating our luck, looking for different opportunities and evaluate those and make choices that move our life forward to where we want it to go. Now, things, obviously, road bumps and detours along the life, but that's what makes life so wonderful, is that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And we just need to learn to enjoy every day and be happy today, not building a happy life, just building a happy today.
That is such great advice. It really is, in life and in leadership, right?
That makes life an adventure.
Yeah, yeah. How have you seen, I mean, because you've worked with a lot of different leaders through these assessments, how have you seen leaders stumble when they didn't adjust their communication to their colleagues or their team in getting their work done?
Well, I think the part that I've enjoyed most about my career is that I get to work with very successful people. And a lot of them are focused on building successful organizations, successful high performing teams. And often they are in professions where they're really helping others to become more successful. And one thing I've noticed observing these successful people is that they come from all over the world, from different backgrounds, different educational backgrounds. But there's one thing that they all have in common. They are all confidently self-aware. They are comfortable with who they are, no matter who they are, but they make peace with the fact that this is me. They look in the mirror, they don't live in denial. They understand that they are not perfect and they have things they need to work on, and they try to maximize their wonderful gifts, that their strengths that they've been given. But they all are very self-aware. And they learn to modify their behavior when they're interacting with different people, whether it's with their direct reports or people in general. They learn not to autopilot through life, meaning that we all are different. And if you think about people some of them might be very outgoing, others might be more introverted. Not good or bad, they're simply different. But once a person understands who they really are, make peace with who they are, and they learn to identify their styles, their style. Who is this person? They learn skills to look for certain behavioral patterns, and they become fairly confident that this person must be more of a D style or this is more of an S style. And then they go to the most critical step, which is modifying their behavior, understanding how to most effectively communicate or lead a different styles of people, rather than hoping that everybody else is just like them. Because often we autopilot. We are who we are. This is my communication style. Here it is to you. Hope for the best. Well, sometimes it works, but often it does not. When we learn to make those modifications and creating that habit of keeping in mind who I am, identifying other people's styles, and modifying their behavior, communication, motivation, leadership, sales, no matter what the context is, they're always making those modifications. And that is what makes them successful. Of course, there are other factors, but that is what I would consider foundational leadership, or any type of any context. That's what successful people do. They modify their behavior. They do not autopilot.
That is a really interesting distinction you're making, because on one hand, you see a lot of leaders who are really comfortable with who they are, but they have a different attitude where it's, well, this is who I am, so just accept it, versus this is who I am, and I understand that you're different, and so I'm going to meet you where you are. That's a really different approach.
Well, if you think about it, I have kids, I have a significant other. I believe they love me very much. They show it to me every day, but I can have zero control over their behavior. Only thing I can control is my own actions. And when I try to modify those actions, those behaviors in a way that I think will be most successful, then I have some influence over them. I still don't have control, but I have a way that I can communicate expectations and how I would like them to, I'm talking about work settings now, how I would like them to carry out our organizational vision. They still have to make the choice what they will do, but I can facilitate that process by modifying my own behavior, because that is ultimately the only thing we have control over in our lives.
Mm-hmm. And when we do modify, then, like you said, we can influence that person, but also then influence the outcomes that we're all trying to achieve as a team.
Exactly. And we still have, our employees still have to carry out their responsibilities and that vision for the organization. But I need to make sure that they understand what those expectations are, how they will be rewarded, and what the vision is. And if I don't do that communication effectively, they cannot achieve those results. Their intent might be wonderfully, they want to succeed, they want to carry out the vision. But if they don't have clarity around those issues, I cannot expect them to be successful, and I cannot expect our teams or organization as a whole to be successful. And the same principles apply in our personal lives. My kids played sports, and I often was in the sideline watching games. And I remember a couple of occasions where there were twins in the other teams. And I saw the parents trying to, in quotation mark, motivate or influence their kids. And they used the same approach with both kids. Now, I don't know if they were, when it came to their dish style, exactly the same. Most likely not. But if you want to be successful with our family members, our friends, we need to create the habits of using the same principles we just talked about.
So if a leader is listening to this and hearing this concept for the first time, how can they become or start to become more aware of the differences in how people approach the stimulus around them and in their communication? More on that in a moment. If you're listening to this episode wishing you can get more out of your team alongside other purpose-driven leaders who want to be more effective, I encourage you to take a look at my program, Leading with Engagement. In it, I provide training and a practice field to gain confidence in communicating expectations that help team members stretch themselves and wow your customers. You'll gain a framework for giving meaningful feedback that motivates and inspires them to engage. Among other skills, you'll learn to delegate and track performance to free up your time to lead more strategically. Go to teammojo.ca for more information. Now, back to the episode. So if a leader is listening to this, how can they start to become more aware of the differences in how people approach communication?
Well, I think the first they should consider, do I need to change? Or is my approach working perfectly well right now? If it is, maybe you don't need to address that. I would suspect, however, that when they think about what's happening, they probably, what tends to keep leaders up at night the most is not the competition or technology. It's how do we get our team members, our employees to make our organization more successful? Other factors are important too, and yes, we do worry about them, but often it comes to how do we get to hire the right people, get our existing people to perform better, and they're a little bit at a loss. And really what the extended DISC model provides is a map to understand how we are different, starting with ourselves, creating that confidence, self-awareness, and really honest about what do I need to develop, how do I need to improve, and then learning that our employees are different, making smarter hiring decisions, because bad hiring decisions are often very expensive for the organization. People use different calculation models. The bottom line, it costs money. Bringing the right people in the team, and then really developing and leading them in a way that is most effective. And if you do that, organization will become more successful. There will be setbacks, we will learn things, but ultimately we need to make those changes. People understand this in sporting world very well. There's a coach, there are team members, and people get very passionate about what kind of team members they should recruit and what the existing team members should be doing better. But when it comes to our personal and professional lives, a lot of times we don't think about those things, much less use some clear method or a system to make that happen.
That is, I do believe that is why you see a lot of former competitive athletes becoming really great leaders, because they do understand that all of the aspects of leadership are there in sports, like measurement, like practice, like running plays and preparation. And then when it's game time, communicating and as a team working together. And so I think, yeah, all of those elements really are modeled in sports.
Yes, and we are familiar with those concepts, but we have difficulty transferring that concept into a professional or personal life world.
Yeah, for sure. Let's give everybody a scenario, like maybe evaluating a new software. How would the different disc styles approach evaluating or buying a new software?
Well, I'm going to oversimplify it here, but D will say, what will it do for us? Or more importantly, what will it do for me? Because I have clear goals for myself and I want to achieve them. Styles are going to.
That was the D dominant, you said.
That's a D style, yes. I style, hey, this is going to be fun, exciting. This thing has all kind of cool real features and things we can use, and look at how cool it looks. They get very enthusiastic about new things. Their challenge will be, will they learn all the detail, nuances of the software, but they are super excited until next exciting thing will come along. S styles, they will think about, well, how will this impact our team, our organization, and how we are doing things right now? Because S styles look at things like, if things are working right now, why change? They are the most reluctant to change of the four styles. Doesn't mean that they will not change or do not want to change, but S styles often see change as a little bit of a threat. Well, C styles, they will want to understand all the details and the facts about the software. Has it been thoroughly tested? What are the downtimes? What are the problems that could cause? And why are we doing this? Why are we implementing a new software? Yes, our old software has some problems, some things we need to fix, and I've been working on those, but let's make sure that this new software will fix those previous issues and understand really why we are doing this. One of the easiest way to really identify somebody's style is to be tuned into what kind of questions they ask. These styles tend to ask a lot of what questions. What's in it for me? What's the bottom line? I start like a lot of who questions. Hey, who else is involved? Who will be bringing to this team? Ben, I haven't seen Ben in a great time. It's going to be great to catch up with them. Be exciting to have a chat with him. Or who else is using this? S's want to know the hows. How are we going to do it? Because they tend to be step by step in their approach. And as we just talked about the C style, they want answers to why. Because information, facts, analysis, those type of things are important for them.
Okay, I think that gives us a really good understanding of the different ways that different people can approach a problem, right?
Yes.
See how that would be a source of friction and also a source of alignment depending on the team.
Yes, and like in your example, your scenario, if we are bringing let's say we're considering bringing a new software to our organization. If we only look at it from one angle, like what's the bottom line, we will miss some important things. So in those kind of situations, it's good to have that diversity of perspectives.
What are some of the positive effects you've seen in organizations that integrate extended disc into their culture?
Well, the key thing is that when you use extended disc in an organization, it cannot be a training event. Hey, we're going to learn a little bit ourselves. And all of us love to learn about the most important person in the world, me. Hey, this is cool. I didn't know this about me, and look at how wonderful I am, and so forth. But you really need to make a part of the organization. And when the managers are consistently reinforcing that, hey, this is something, how we are going to interact with our colleagues, our other employees, our customers, they will ask questions like, for example, a sales manager may ask a salesperson, hey, when you called on this prospect last week, what was her disc style? Because if it's important to the manager, it becomes important to the employee. If manager does not consistently reinforce that, it will fade away. People think, hey, that was cool, but it's not important. As an employee, what's important to the boss is important to us. Those are the main responsibilities. But when organization will do that, they will see things like making better hiring decisions, getting the new team members onboarded more quickly, and in a way that people understand what are these behavioral tendencies of the new employees and how do we integrate with our team, or how we more effectively as a manager, I can make certain that this new employee becomes more successful. That in turn leads to things like higher morale and lower employee turnover rate. People don't quit the companies or organizations. They quit because of their boss. And typically they quit the boss because the boss and the employee are speaking different language. They don't communicate effectively. The expectations are not clear, but they're conflicting. And misunderstandings will happen, and it will create resentments, and eventually employee has had enough and they go somewhere else. And then you will have more successful teamwork. As an organization, you will have a more cohesive, clear culture where the expectations are understood and the path to our future is understood. And those are some of the kind of a big picture things that we see consistently from our clients. Our average client relationship is over 10 years. And that tells us that they are seeing value in doing something like this. And that's what our mission really is, to help employees, teams, and organizations to become more successful. The assessment is a starting point. It's never the end.
Yeah, 100%. And it requires patience on the part of the leader and the team members to apply what they've learned when they first took that assessment, to go, okay, I have this awareness of myself. What do I need to adjust when I'm speaking with people who have a different way of looking at things and a different way of communicating? So you're very aware and you've observed many people of all the different styles. Let's play a game. What style do you think I am?
Yes, I'm glad you asked this question. One of the most significant or most important and most dangerous mistakes we make when we're trying to identify somebody's style is that we make that decision too soon. In order to identify somebody's style, you want to look for consistent behavioral patterns, like what type of questions they ask, what is their eye contact look like, what is the tonality, how much they talk, what they talk about, and where is their focus. The best and easiest way to identify somebody's style is to see them under pressure. Because when we are under pressure, we revert to our natural behavioral style, because that is our comfort zone. It's our area of strength. So like, I used to travel a lot with my work. Thankfully, my employees are excited to go to new places, but airport is a great place to identify people's styles, even by observing their physical behavior, security line, boarding a plane, getting into the plane, out of the plane. That's where you can easily, by not even communicating, just observing them, you can identify their style. Elevators, let's say, you are going to an elevator, you are running to the elevator, you see doors closing, and there's a one person in there, they're pressing a button. You think they are pressing the open door button? It's a D style pressing closed door button because they got places to go and they don't have no time to wait for you. In an elevator, there's an I style. Hey, how's it going? How's your day going? What a beautiful day. They talk to everybody and anybody, whether they know them or not. S style will be in the elevator, just kind of smiling, nodding, but not really saying a word. And next to the S style is a C style, who's looking around and seeing how many people is in the elevator. And they looked at the sign in the elevator. What is the weight limit or person limit? And they're calculating, looking around what the weight of each person is and doing some math, making sure that they will get safely to their destination floor. So I don't want to not identify your style right now, but I can, and actually a tip for people who want to learn the skill, don't focus on who the person is. It's often easier to start by identifying who they are not. Okay. For example, I don't think this person is a high D style, or they're not at high. Because again, as we talked about earlier, we are actually a combination of all four styles. Mm-hmm. So for example, I have some D, I have some I have some S and C. I style for me happens to be the lowest. Doesn't mean that I cannot provide I style outgoing, enthusiastic behavior if it's needed, but it's good for me to remember that that behavior will require most energy from me. I need to really focus on that. And when I style is needed, yes, I can do it. It's never the most comfortable to me, but I can do it when I need to.
Well, by the way, great job dodging the game, but that's okay. I think it's really important that you called out the part about more important to identify what they're not so that you don't focus on that area. So if, for example, if someone is not C style, if they're not analytical and data oriented, and you start providing a whole bunch of data, you're either going to lose them, right? Their eyes are going to gloss over and they're not interested. They're just like, move on. Like, I don't care about these things. So
absolutely.
So resonating doesn't always have to mean you get it perfect, but it means stay away from the things that they're not interested in.
Yeah, the best way to do it is to take kind of a long-term perspective. Look for clues that will help me identify the styles, and also be very aware that even when I think that, hey, Carrie is this style, I still don't want to lock into that determination. I will want to get more information about the person to say, hey, maybe it's not so much of a I style or whatever other style, and kind of consistently looking for those clues to be more confident in that identification.
And as a leader, if we can adjust our communication and adjust our expectations and how we communicate those expectations to our team, we're going to have better influence and outcome that we are looking for, right? More predictable.
Yeah, you really want to create habits. Like if you want success in any part of your life, you need to develop good habits. Sometimes they take a little work to develop, but as the saying goes, good habits are hard to develop, but they're easy to live with. Mm-hmm. And of course, other way around, bad habits are easy to develop, but they're hard to live with. So we want to develop those good habits, and only when it becomes a habit in any part of our lives, including what we've been talking about here today, it takes some work, but eventually it will become a habit.
Yeah. I'll give an example too of one of the ways that I've learned to adjust. I'm surrounded by quite a few people who are more the direct or sort of driver personality or communication. And I've learned that instead of telling the story first and all the background, because maybe I want to feel heard in that moment, instead I start with, I need a decision from you, or I need to use you as a sounding board. You don't have to decide anything, just listen. And then I tell the story, and I find that that's way more effective, because otherwise the person is swimming around in the story trying to figure out the point and like, what is she asking me to do? And this way, if I give the request first, then they can listen with knowing what the outcome is, which makes them happy. And so
Yeah,
just an example.
that's perfect. With the D styles, you want to lead with the bottom line. Say, this is what I'm looking for, and I only need 5 minutes of your time. Okay, D will relax. Okay, I know what we are focusing on. 5 minutes, no problem.
Yeah.
Tell me. But if I'm going left and right and talking about this and that, they get frustrated, and you are not going to get what you were hoping to get from the conversation. So that's a perfect example, Carrie, how to use this.
And yet, if you say I only need 5 minutes, if you hit 5 minutes, they're going, okay, come on, it's time.
You better do it in 4 minutes or less. But when you tell them 5 minutes, they are in the game.
Yeah, that's funny. I find that once I learned and was certified on extended disc, not that everybody needs to be certified or anything like that, but once I understood it, it actually helped me appreciate our differences more because and learn to laugh at some of them because we're all humans, we're all kind of funny, and we the end result is not to judge people or make anybody wrong or bad. It's to learn to work better together.
Yeah, that's exactly, it's non-judgmental. There is no good or bad or better or worse. They're simply different. And really where we always start with our clients is let's understand the model and the foundational things. And one of the key things is that it's not a test. There's no good or bad, simply difference. And we learn to value those differences because what we lack, other people have. And how do we use the strengths of each other to ultimately get where we want to get as a team as individual.
Hmm. How has understanding extended disc changed your leadership style?
Well, I would love to say, hey, I practice this every day, but the honest truth is that in all parts of our lives, knowing does not equal doing. As an example, if you go to look at the top books, best-selling books, you see diets book there all the time. We all know how to live a healthy lifestyle and what we're supposed to do, but often we choose not to do those things. But the way it has helped me as a leader and in my personal life too is that I understand people are different, and I also understand that their perspective, if it's different, it's not better or worse. And how do I learn to understand how they see the same exact situation? Because we can learn a lot from other people. And how do I use that learning to benefit not me, but them and our organization? Because leadership is not a solo act. Life is not a solo act. Nobody's successful because, hey, pat on my back, I did these wonderful things. It's always an effort by many people. And how I can get the effort of many people aligned to our overall vision and our goals, that is where the magic happens. And that's how the success happens. So I try to be very consistent about understanding that. Now, and this goes beyond this, I think there's certain things that we have to, kind of foundational things we need to make sure we do. One is really healthy lifestyle, get enough rest. If you think about yourself when you did not sleep enough the night before you go to work, you know from the very beginning that's going to be a bad day. Because when we are tired and exhausted, we will not be performing and doing the things we are supposed to do. So I try to make sure I stay rested. I have a healthy lifestyle in terms of our diet and exercise. When you have those foundational things ready, no matter what you're trying to do, you're going to be more successful. And when I'm consistent with those habits, then I can make sure that I use a habit of modifying my behavior more consistently and not being too critical when I fail. I didn't do it then. I didn't do it with that interaction. What can I learn? Evaluating, debriefing that. What did I do wrong? What can I learn from that incident so I will do better next time?
Hmm. Yeah, I think for leaders, that self-reflection is really, really valuable, and often overlooked.
It is. I believe anything we do in life, it requires action. Just thinking about things and reading about things, it is not going to really, learning is great, but you need to put that learning into action. Action is how we are rewarded in this life. but we want to make sure that our actions are productive. We learn from our mistakes, and we have an understanding of what we are really trying to achieve as an organization or in our life, in what are our personal goals. Because often when I talk to people, especially young people, is that, I want to be happy, I'll have a fulfilling career. They have these financial goals, these material goals, but they're pretty vague. And once we have a understanding of what is it really that we want and being able to define what is happiness, what is wealth, what does it mean, only then we are able to be very consistent in our actions and our behaviors to get what we want. And if we don't know what we want, what's guaranteed is that we are not going to feel fulfilled. But we want things, but okay, that's wonderful. But what is it that you want? How do you define happiness? Everybody wants to be happiness, but very few people are able to really articulate what that means to them. And if we don't have that direction in our lives, we are kind of rudderless in the sea. And we often need to get those things, those foundational things, really clearly defined. And I'm not preaching that, hey, you need to have very, very clear goals, because they change over time, mine change over time. And what should I be doing? Is this what I want to continue to do? Or should I go to a different direction? But at least have an idea and pay some attention to what is it that we truly want in our professional world and our personal lives. So to get a little bit of a tangent there, but I think those are important things for us to consider.
Those are hugely important. And I love that we went down that path. It might tie into my question was going to be, what advice would you give to young Markku when you first kind of got into leadership? Maybe it ties into that. Maybe it's also something else.
No, it definitely ties into that. And I continually think about where do I want to be in the future when Markku grows up, and I'm getting close to 60 here. But I always think about those and try to reflect on back that how those things have changed. And as I just mentioned, there's nothing wrong in changing direction or coming up with new priorities. And in fact, that's what makes life wonderful. Like I said, it's adventure. And we rethink about what's truly important to us. What I would say is that have a clear understanding what you want. For example, when I was probably around late 20s, maybe 30ish, a very successful person, considered the top executive coach in the world. He and I developed a friendship. And I remember driving in his car in California. He used to live in Southern California. And he asked me this question out of the blue, said, Markku, how much money is enough for you? And I'm talking about, by the way, Markku, that number is for you only. Come up with the number that's enough. And it came to me like that. And it gave me such clarity. That's going to be enough. And when I reached that goal, like, okay, I don't need more. And it kind of gave me this freedom of looking at the world with a more open mind and being able to take risk and see new opportunities. So I was very fortunate to have that. So any listener, I think it's a good thing to consider, because a lot of people continue to chase more and more. They want to be a millionaire. When they get their 1 million, they want 10 million, 100 million, and so on. And these people, I observe them, they don't become any happier because they're always chasing. And so I think you need to know what's enough. And also, I think I'm very fortunate that I didn't have these supercomputers in my life when I was a young person. Young people ask me often, what should I do? I say, spend less time scrolling and just things. There's wonderful things in there. I'm guilty of scrolling through nonsense sometimes in the evenings, but it doesn't make your life better. And the amount of time you spend on this and you put in something that aligns with your vision for your life, imagine what you could achieve. If you spend, I read somewhere that some kids spend 8 hours a day on these things. I don't know if it's true or not, whether it's 2 hours or 4 hours, the return on that time, I think, is going to be minimal. If you put that time into something that helps you achieve your goals and dreams and your plans, you would arrive there way faster than wasting time on these things. Wonderful tool, but don't let it control you. You should be in control of that.
That is really good advice.
It's this is like I said, good habits are difficult to develop, but easy to live with. Bad habits like this, very easy to develop, and they are very smart with the algorithms, easy to develop, but over time it becomes hard to live with. It's not going to help you achieve your dreams. Sorry, I'm preaching here about how to spend our times, but I think it's important to always think about time as a currency.
Yes.
And for me, time is the most important currency. And older you get, the more important it comes because you start doing some math and how much time do I have left? When you're in 20s, somebody like me looks like an old person. But going back to where I started this company, it seems like a few days ago, maybe a couple of years ago, but it's been 30 years.
Yeah, time just flies by. And so we need to be intentional about how we want to spend that time.
Be intentional with your time, but knowing where you want to go. Not specific goals, but enough that you have clarity about what you want to achieve and how you want to spend your time. What's important to you.
Yeah, that becomes your compass.
Yes.
Yeah. If people want to learn more about effective communication and effective leadership, what do you recommend?
Well, there's certainly, there's you you can go to your phone and Google it or chat GPT it. That's a wonderful tool right there when you use it properly. There's many books about it. The friend I just mentioned about, his name is Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. He has several books. He's the one who shared me with that. I've known him for almost 30 years. He has great books. My favorite is probably, two of my favorites is What Got You Here Won't Get You There.
Yeah.
And second one is triggers, because we have triggers in our life that will cause us to take the wrong path in certain situations. So I would recommend those, but there are a lot of sources. But I think you need to identify again, what is your plan, and develop a game plan how to get there.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Markku, for everything you shared. The other resource I'm going to share, I'm going to take the liberty of sharing, is some videos on your website are really quick and effective at explaining the different dominant styles. And I think the elevator example is
It's there.
Yeah, and I know that resonated really quickly with me. So I will share those and your website as well, because then people can get in touch with you if they need to.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to future interactions.
Thanks, Carrie.
We're glad you joined us for Suits and Sneakers. If you want to be an expert guest, look for the link in the show notes. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to be notified of future episodes.